Everyone, welcome back. It's been a long time. Welcome to the Temple of Geek's Doctor Who review, a Doctor Who inspired podcast for fans of the long-running British science fiction television series. I am your host number one, or your host in any particular order, Nate, aka Doc in the Box.
And I'm your other host, Elizabeth, aka Lady of Time Cosplay.
We are continuing to be massive Doctor Who fans, and we're here to talk about all things Doctor Who throughout our series. We discuss the latest episodes, classic series, the spin-offs, and everything in between.
We'll also bring you interviews with people who've worked in and around the series, behind-the-scenes information, and all sorts of other Doctor Who-related fun.
So whether you're a longtime fan, or just getting started, or just discovered it on Disney Plus recently, we hope you'll join us for the ride.
Today, we will be talking about this year's Christmas special, Joy to the World.
Joy to the world.
I do want to share one little fun fact before we start that just tickled me was, getting straight into spoilers. So by the way, spoilers, if you have not watched the episode yet, go away, watch it. It's a delightful episode and come back and listen to us when you're all done. It really tickled me when I realized upon my second watch of the episode that the London that they had, I gotta look what they said exactly because I'm gonna forget. So where the Time Hotel is, it says London Christmas 4202, which is 2024 backwards.
Okay.
I was like, that's cute.
Yeah, okay. Watch that just be something like, I just pulled a number out. And
I know I did write down the code that the doctor got, but
7471 or something like that.
7214. And
I was close. I was at two. I had some of it.
Yes, I couldn't figure out any specific reference that was, but that is something that I want to talk about later because there's a lot of fun little Easter eggs in this episode. But first of all, what were your overall thoughts about the episode and how did it compare to what you thought the episode was going to be?
Overall, I have notes. I always have notes. Doctor Who. I love Doctor Who. It's my favorite show to hate on sometimes. Not that I hate the show. I love the show, but I have notes. But overall, it was a, dare we say, a joyous experience. However, from what I expected a lot more joy in the episode, and not joy as a feeling. Joy being Nicola Coughlan playing the character of Joy. She was still the main character, but wasn't in it as greatly as I thought she would be.
Yeah, for sure. The parts she was in were delightful. I mean, the entire episode was delightful, but yeah, it was it would have been nice to see more of her. And one thing that I was thinking about when I was watching it is the trailers that they put out made it seem like the Silurian guy was going to be the bad guy. But once again, bad guy is capitalism, apparently.
Oh, yeah, right?
Because Villain Guard popped its head up again. And I love it. Stephen Moffat writes some of my favorite episodes of Doctor Who. The 12th Doctor's era is one of my favorite eras. 12 is my favorite Doctor. 15's getting up there, though. For sure. But I love it when Stephen Moffat takes just completely ordinary things like the door in the hotel that's always locked, or a crack in the wall, or a Stone Angel statue, or forgetting why you've gone into a room, and given it a really cool sci-fi twist, and just the concept of the Time Hotel too, I thought was really interesting. And I loved how that meant that you could play with the rules of time travel a little bit, especially where the doctor's it's not a paradox because everything's, physically connected or whatever. And I'm okay, I guess.
Yeah, I've been down this route before. They're going to question this, so I'm going to put an answer right there immediately. Yeah. I'm the bootstrap paradox coming back again, where it was just, he just remembered it. I was expecting maybe a little bit more of him trying to investigate how he arrived at what that code was, but I also didn't expect him to be stuck on Earth for an entire year, which I thought was an interesting twist in that episode. In all honesty, and no shade to Nicola Coughlan, she did great with the role that she had, but the way the episode was written, I enjoyed him on the Doctor on Earth with Anita a lot more than the rest of the episode.
To be fair, he had to kind of be a jerk for part of the rest of the episode with Joy. But yeah, like, and just, it was one of those things that was completely unexpected, because as far as I can tell, none of that sequence, which is a decent chunk of the episode, was in any of the trailers or really popped up anywhere in any of the promotional materials for it, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, the Doctor's been stuck on Earth a couple times. I mean, they had no TARDIS when the Doctor was the third Doctor, had no TARDIS basically at all when they were exiled. Power of 3, we saw what happened with the 11th Doctor. It basically just went nuts because he was bored to death. I obviously, like, it was stuck until Sally Sparrow sent the TARDIS back, was stuck without a TARDIS and living in order with Martha and in Blink. But I want to say, wasn't the Doctor on Earth as 12 for, like, was it like 50 years when he was teaching college? Didn't they say something about that with Bill?
Yeah, I remember. I actually, to out myself a little bit, I'm on Tumblr still. But this, actually, like, the other day, I saw a post on Tumblr that was talking about how Sacha Dhawan's master was on Earth for, however many, for like 70 years plus. And people were talking about the implications of that and how that meant he, lived through the Saxon years again. But yeah, it was just, but it's just always interesting. And I think that's the most we've ever really seen of the Doctor being stuck on Earth. I mean, there is a Eighth Doctor audio series where he's stuck on Earth for a while. I don't know how long he's stuck on Earth in that audio series. It's not one I've listened to yet. But I just thought the entire sequence was really well done. Like, I even especially liked that they didn't just rely on the big, like, March, April, whatever. There was, like, the little contextual clues for how much time had passed, like asking, oh, I like it when the clocks go forward, don't you? Or I don't like it when they go back, or just little, like, details like the Doctor eating a chocolate Easter egg, which I thought was neat. Or
yeah, they celebrated the passage of time. They showed the passage of time through celebrated holidays, and that was kind of cool. Which they kind of did with Ruby too, when she was in that yards. I forgot exactly how. 78, 72, 72 yards. I think it's 72. But yeah, that whole sequence I enjoyed. Just, I need more of the Doctor and Anita. I loved them so much together. Like, they just had such a great relationship, and I ended up caring for her so much after that short little segment of them on Earth.
Yeah, she was really, I mean, another thing that I think Moffat does really well is because he is so aware of, like, the, like, Big Finish and any of the associated spin-offs that happen from the show. You can always kind of tell that he's written little gaps or little, things that somebody could take and expand upon in something like the audio worlds of Big Finish. Because I feel like that year gap, if Ncuti Gatwa ever winds up doing Big Finish, or if they just want to do some, like, narrated stuff, because sometimes they'll do stuff in different eras but just have it be more audiobook rather than audio drama, I feel like that would be a really fun little gap to throw in there. But yeah, I really loved that. And I, for not being in any of the trailers as far as I remember, Anita is like one of the standouts in this episode for sure.
Yeah, and also one thing I wanted to mention was like the Power of 3, he was only there for, like, I think it was like 3 days, and he was bored out of his mind. But in comparison, for the Power of 3, when he was bored out of his mind, versus his exile when he was third Doctor, and on Earth when he was as 12 as the Professor, and then moving forward to when he's the 15th Doctor with Ncuti, I think the difference between all the other Doctors versus 11 was, I think that a job gave the Doctor purpose. He wasn't bored because he had a job. Because
with his 3, he had a job too. He was unit scientific advisor.
Yeah, so. That's what I'm saying. Like, he has a job, and that gave him purpose. So that's why he was so bored as 11, because he had nothing to do.
Yeah, he just was trying to play video games and paint the fence and drive Amy and Rory absolutely crazy. Yeah, I loved how, like, he just kept making everything bigger on the inside, too. I'm like, I would like a bigger on the inside microwave or a bigger on the inside coffee cup. Thank you.
had changed her car into a TARDIS, basically. It doesn't take me where I want to go, but it takes you where you need to go.
Yeah.
Why is it now blue? Also, during that whole segment where he's fixing things, they made the most Doctor Who joke that you could make in a Doctor Who episode when she handed him the plunger. Yes. And he's like, "Is this armed?"
I didn't like understand that one at first, and then later when I was thinking, I'm like, oh, it's a Dalek joke.
Yeah, I mean, I'll admit, like, I got it at the time, but it took me a second to process. I'm like, is it? Oh! That was great. I loved that.
Yeah, because at first I was like, oh, is he that like grossed out by having to go like clean the bathroom or something? I'm like, oh, it's a Dalek joke. Okay, cool. They just needed like a joke with a whisk or something in there then.
And then also when I thought it was funny just to point out, when he was up on the ledge or whatever, when she drove up in the car, he had his little tool pouch on and the hat and everything. And he looked like Fix-It Felix to me. Like, if you put them side by side, I'm pretty sure they look just like they're dressed almost exactly the same. That from what I remember, he looks like Fix-It Felix.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I love that he had even painted his little, if you look in the background in one of the shots when they're having chair time, he even painted his toolbox to look like a little TARDIS, which I think is
didn't
adorable.
notice that part.
Yeah.
I saw obviously we saw all the little TARDISes hidden throughout the room, but I didn't see the toolbox.
Yes, it's like on the floor, kind of next to the little desk or whatever in his room. And I was just like, oh, that's delightful.
But speaking of little things to notice, you had some Easter eggs you wanted to go over on this episode.
Yeah.
We didn't preface. If you didn't know, Stephen Moffat did write this episode. I don't remember if we said that or not, but there are some Easter eggs from things that he previously has done that Liz wanted to point out.
Yes. And this is actually Stephen Moffat's 50th writing credit for Doctor Who, which I think is like impressive and like, holy cow, wow. You know, I will also say there should be, at the time this episode goes out, there should be an article that I wrote on the Temple of Geek website if you want to go take a look at that. So I'll just run through like a couple of them, and then maybe I'll throw some ones that aren't in the article out there that I was like, maybe I'm overthinking this kind of thing. One that I think a lot of people probably noticed because they posted it on the Doctor Who social media is the newspaper that he has at the beginning. It's called the Timey Wimey, which I think is adorable. I
did want to pause that, didn't get around to it.
Yes. So it's called the Timey Wimey, which of course is from Blink and it's kind of become like the phrase in Doctor Who, you know, because it pops up all the time. But in addition to the newspaper being called the Timey Wimey, it also references the Duck Pond in Ledworth. And it references Prisoner Zero, both from obviously the 11th Hour, which was the first episode in Stephen Moffat's run as showrunner for Doctor Who. This isn't like a direct Doctor Who reference, but the bar, I'm going to probably mispronounce this name, but the bar in the Time Hotel is called the De Tambles, which is the last name of the main character in The Time Traveler's Wife, which Stephen Moffat did a TV series of after leaving Doctor Who and was a big influence for the Doctor and River Song. And also if you look in Dark Water, the Doctor even has a copy of that book in the TARDIS, and it's one of the places he's hidden a TARDIS key, which I think is fun.
I have to give props to one of my friends, actually, as far as The Time Traveler's Wife. I haven't gotten around to watch it. I'm a terrible friend. I'm sorry. I haven't gotten to watch it. So I don't know if his scene made it or not, but my friend, Josh LeCount, big Doctor Who fan. I don't know if I can't remember if you've met him or not, but he was in the Time Traveler's Wife. One of like not necessarily a background character, but I think it was like a wedding scene or something like that, where he was like one of the best men or groomsmen or something like that. And yeah, he was so jazzed to work in something that was like, that had Moffat involved, and was like, oh my God, like it's not Doctor Who, but this is so amazing.
Awesome. I didn't know that. I'm so bad with names, but if you like showed me a picture of his face, I would probably know who you're talking about. It's horrible. Like me and names
I'm the same way.
I'm atrocious at it.
Especially at conventions. If someone comes up to me and is like, hey, I'm like, hi,
especially you. Take that a wig on, and I'm like,
yeah, I'm better. If you give me a handle, I'll be better than using a name.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. So I thought that was a really cool little like way to name the bar. Yeah. the Doctor uses the phrase "the long way round," which is like Day of the Doctor. Oh, one like really, really blink and you'll miss it Easter egg. So that one scene where the Doctor is mopping, he's got the Sonic somehow controlling a mop, which the Sonic isn't supposed to work on wood. So I'm not sure how that's happening. But if you look closely at the newspaper that he has, it's a little bit harder to make out the headline on that newspaper. But if you look at the pictures of a clockwork droid, and the last word in the headline, it says Versailles. So I'm like, it's a Girl in the Fireplace reference, which I thought was really cool. I'm guessing maybe like they opened a time window way too far in the future or something. But I thought that was really cool, because at first I was just trying to figure out what the words were. But when I looked at the picture and it was the clockwork droid, I'm like, that's really cute. You talked about the exchange the Doctor and Anita have about her car. It's not an episode that Stephen Moffat wrote, but it was one during his time as showrunner, which was the Doctor's wife, which I thought was nice because that's like one of my favorite little exchanges in that episode. I mean, Neil Gaiman wrote the episode.
Yeah.
We don't need to talk about everything that's gone on with him, but I really like that episode.
But that line was very, very iconic for the episode and just for the TARDIS in general.
Yes. Oh, for sure. Of course, he tells Anita about the Weeping Angels, which I thought was cute.
Anita was just so chill with everything, even from the very beginning. Yeah. Like, oh, there's a lizard guy. Do you need more? She didn't say this specifically, but like, oh, there's a lizard guy. Do you need more towels?
Yeah.
Like, it was so commonplace, like, so unbothered by everything.
Yeah. I mean, I guess, if you live in London in the Doctor Who universe for long enough, you're probably not as, like, fazed by nonsense, I guess.
I'm surprised. It would have been funny. I'm surprised that, as if you think of, like, hotel stuff in the real world, be like, if she walked in and was like, I thought it was just you. There's an extra charge for additional people.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Because she's just like, you can tell that she's probably worked in customer service a long time where she's just like, I'm going to do my job. I'm going to make sure everybody's okay, but this is none of my business. I just want to get done with my day kind of thing. Yeah, she was so funny. Like that entire exchange in the room with Joy was hilarious. One reference that I thought is, again, probably a bit of a stretch because it's not as direct of a reference, but I'm like, everything that you see on a camera is put there by somebody. They have to design everything that's going to be on the screen. So there is a ad playing on the TV in the lobby when the Doctor's getting ready to leave for the Merchant of Venice. Like some theater nearby is apparently doing a production. I'm like, oh, that made me think of The Vampires of Venice, which again, not a Moffat episode, but in his run. And then Villain Guard, obviously, we most recently heard about that in Boom, which was also a Stephen Moffat episode, but that originally got mentioned in The Doctor Dances, which was Stephen Moffat's first, well, technically second, because it's a two-parter episode of Doctor Who back with the Ninth Doctor, because he mentions it about, Captain Jack mentions like, oh, I can't get the charger or whatever for his gun or whatever anymore. And the Doctor's like, yeah, I blew up their factories and there's a banana grove there now. I do miss 9 a lot. And then one other one that I had was apparently T-Rexes like to swallow very important things in the Doctor Who universe, including starseeds and TARDISes with deep breath.
And the fact that it took over a T-Rex was quite interesting.
Yeah, I was like, it reminded me vaguely of whatever that Mario game is where he's got the hat, where the hat on and then it possesses whatever he's put the hat on. I never played it. I just watched.
I wanted. Was it Galaxy? It was the hat was named Cappy, but I don't remember which one it was.
Say Super Mario World, but I'm not 100% on that. But it just that's what it reminded me of.
If it's not Galaxy, then I don't know. It's not important. This isn't a Super Mario. It's just
what reminded me of. And then one other last little one is Jonathan Aris, who played the Silurian hotel manager. He is also Anderson in Sherlock.
Oh.
And Yeah. Which, yeah, you can't recognize it because he's got all the prosthetics on. Yeah. I would have never recognized him if I didn't write down, like go looking at the cast list. So I was like, some of these people look really familiar. And I'm like, oh, it's Anderson.
You know who looked familiar that I couldn't place? And forgive me for not looking the man up. Because I actually, in order of people in the episode that I enjoyed other than the Doctor, Anita was my top. I'm sorry, Nicola, a.k.a. Joy. Anita was my top. I loved Trev also. Yes. Trev was so freaking amazing. Great. And like, at first I'm like, wow, is this going to be about like them two? And then he died off, which I was sad about because I actually really like within that short period, I got attached to that dude. Yeah, he was just so cool.
He was so sweet. And like his little like, it took me longer, but it's giving me immense personal satisfaction that I'm able to complete this mission, even though it's taken millions of years. I'm like,
yeah, he's like, I won't let you down, sir. And his little, at the end, like, I don't know, but he looks so familiar to me. I'm not sure if he's been in something else I've seen, but he looks so familiar to me.
Have you seen Paddington in Peru? I'm looking him up now. Paddington in Peru. He was Joe the Postman.
No, I saw the first one.
Oh, he was in Our Flag Means Death, which I haven't seen. But I know a lot of people really love. He was in 18 episodes of that.
Maybe I've seen him in...
Oh, he was in Cruella. He was Jasper in Cruella.
Okay, I did see Cruella.
Yeah, the Emma Stone. Yeah, oh, and the actor, by the way, is Joel Fry. If anybody's... Okay. I'm on his IMDb page. Yeah, I would say probably Cruella. He played Jasper, so one of her henchmen in that. I have not seen that movie. I probably should. I hear good things. Oh, she was in one of the 10th Doctor audio, or he was in one of the 10th Doctor audio things, which was cool. Yeah, he was in Paddington too. He's actually been in a couple of Big Finish things, so that's cool. Super interesting podcast material looking through somebody's IMDb page. I'm going to guess it's probably Cruella.
Probably. Because I did see Cruella, so it's probably from that. Yes. He just looks so familiar. But yes, I completely enjoyed his character. I would have loved to see him hang around more also.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we know
he's
with the stars. Yeah.
That was the one thing that I was kind of like, iffy on in the episode was the ending.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay. Because like the Doctor had said like 2 minutes before, oh, that's the conditioning still talking. It'll wear off. And then she immediately gets possessed by the thing again and then goes off to be a star.
Okay, so I watched it in part. I watched it fully once and then in part twice because... Yeah, so I watched it a little bit again, and I think the second time wasn't her getting possessed necessarily. I think it was because the Doctor said that, and I didn't catch it the first time because it's something that it was too far apart to connect for me, time-wise. I want to say that when she was around it, she didn't get possessed, but she was given the signal. Remember, he said he broke the connection. That guard was going to have to pick it up, and the case holder would be sent the signal. I think she was sent the signal, and I think that's what it was. So she wasn't possessed. But what confused me was all of a sudden, I don't know if it was because of the conscious eye, the multiple consciousness of the people that were in the case. I don't know if it was that, but she was treating it at that point like it was a living being itself and cared for it and wanted to set it free. And I didn't get that in the episode up until that point, because up until that point, it was a corporate briefcase that had a mission to deliver this star and let it go bang. So it being somewhat sentient and her caring about it, I might need to watch it again to get how that evolved into that. I don't have a problem with it, but I didn't see anything leading up to that point.
Yeah, like it feels like there might have been a little bit of exposition, like a little bit more exposition would have might been nice. Like I always, it's good when you're not spoon fed stuff because I feel like that happens a lot sometimes in certain shows and genres. But yeah, I would have liked a tiny bit more explanation. Not that I think the Doctor could have done much once she had it inside her. But yeah, I was just a little like iffy about that. I mean, it was beautiful in a way, but it was just one of those things where I was like, okay, whatever, okay.
I know it was supposed to be beautiful, but when she started floating and was like, "I'm a star," I was like, "Oh my god, this is the corniest shit. What is going on here?" Sorry for cursing, Marta. Sorry, but like. There's no other way it could have been done. There's no other way it could have been done. I understand it, but like when she's like
the Reading Rainbow intro.
When she started floating and just, I guess the way they did it, it looked so funny to me. It gave me 10th Doctor flying through the air to the Master vibes.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, oh my god, what is happening?
Yeah.
I love this show, but what is happening?
I feel like they just kind of ran out of budget at the end to make the flying look nice.
You know what? That's fair. Because when she like absorbed it or whatever, it did look kind of off.
Yeah. I mean, but yeah, and I mean, this might speak to just like how my brain's been recently with the video games that I've been playing recently, but I could also think what's because I've been playing Marvel Rivals, which I'm very bad at it because I've never played a game like it before. It's been an interesting learning curve, and I've kept my voice chat off so I don't get yelled at by people who know better than I do. But all I could think was because I mostly play Wanda because she's fairly easy to pick up, and I don't have to aim as good as other ones because her little like infinity attack is like a continuous stream of like
it's got the little
or whatever.
The drain,
right, yeah.
It's again, not necessarily auto follow, but it's got like a semi auto follow.
You have to you do have to aim somewhat, but it's not as much as like I don't know Hawkeye or Black Widow or whoever. Especially I want to play Spider-Man, but I'm really bad at playing Spider-Man in this game. Anyway, my point being is that like when she flew off, I was like, what is it? I've played it so much now I can't remember what Wanda's line is when she does her ultimate.
Oh,
pure chaos.
I think it's like pure chaos, yeah. And then basically the diva bomb of Marvel Rivals.
Yeah.
From Overwatch.
I know, like this is completely off topic, but yeah, somebody.
Yeah, we're completely off topic now.
I want to play this game, but I've never, somebody was like, oh, it's just like Overwatch. I'm like, I have never played that either. I'm like the only recent multiplayer game that I've played is Fall Guys.
Well, you know what? If you and or anyone else listening wants to hate on me as far as Marvel Rivals is concerned, I got a 6-man Sharky off the edge to win a game as Jeff. They almost got the first one of the points, and I ate them all, threw them off the side. Game over.
Good job. I did. I was. This is completely off topic. Monica's probably going to cut us off at some point about Marvel Rivals, but I did discover that Wanda can, as long as Jeff doesn't go too far off the edge, Wanda can counteract it because you can fly.
Yeah,
which is nice.
That's why I did the. I made sure to take myself with them.
But yeah, like when she flew off, I was like, oh, it's like Wanda in Marvel Rivals. Oh, well. I mean, it was a very lovely, moment. I mean, I've got my own kind of little about the ending, but for what I understand, the general understanding of the Christmas story to be, I'm like, oh, that was sweet. I don't celebrate Christmas. I don't think I've ever brought that up on the podcast before, but, I was like, okay, for what I understand this story to be, cute.
Yeah, we'll actually go into that because as someone who I don't know if okay, we're just gonna go into this. I'll just preface. As someone who enjoys Doctor Who, loves Doctor Who, and loves how inclusive it is, I did love this episode. When it got to the point of Joy being the North Star, I kind of got it. I was like, okay, that's probably the North Star. It's the brightest star in the sky. It's got to be that. But then when it came to the ending, when it was like Bethlehem Year 1, as someone who celebrates Christmas and is of that faith. I felt like it was a little how do I want to put it? Christmas in general is, yes, at the core a religious holiday, but it is celebrated by many because it doesn't always have to be about religion. It's also a time of love and caring and giving and celebrating just time with each other. It's become like yeah, it's become more of a universal holiday.
Yeah.
But then pointing that episode and her significance directly to that point, I didn't know if that kind of like left some people out or left some people alienated. And that's just my opinion. Everyone else can have their own opinion. I'm not saying that that's anything. I'm not saying that what they did was negative. I was just like, oh, that's interesting for them to point directly at that.
Yeah. Yeah, because generally Doctor Who's, again, as somebody who doesn't celebrate the holiday, generally I felt that the Christmas specials are reasonably respective of not, normally it's just that the episode happens to be set at Christmas.
The holiday season, yeah.
Because, one of my my absolute favorite Christmas special is the Husbands of River Song, because that's just a phenomenal episode and makes it I love it so much. But one of the other Christmas specials that I know everybody loves, and I like it too, maybe not as much as other people, is the Christmas Carol one.
I do love that one. That's one of my favorites.
Because I really liked kind of the concept in that one of, that they didn't go into the religious aspect of it, and they're like, oh, it's a celebration of being halfway out of the dark. And I'm like, that's a really nice sentiment. So yeah, it was I'll be interested to see how that goes, how everybody's responding to that, especially because I know Stephen Moffat's line in Boom about that he had the Doctor say about faith, not everybody kind of vibed with, kind of thing. But for what it is, I was like, my understanding of how people see that, I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Okay. It's kind of sweet in a way, but
yeah, I mean, in a way, yeah, it was. And I guess maybe that was the only way they could like solidify, like, this is the North Star. And that's who she became and who they became. Maybe that was the only way they could solidify it. But for the audience, but I don't know.
Yeah,
it was a lot. It was different because it wasn't just the general holiday season anymore. It was that. But one of the things Monica mentioned that I completely forgot about, it was the whole basis of the last freaking season, and I completely forgot about, it was Ruby Sunday's birthday.
Oh yeah, I forgot about it.
Yeah, because when it showed Ruby, I'm like, oh my god, it's Ruby! I can't believe it. And I thought the Doctor called her, and she's like, hello, Mom. Her mom was probably calling her to say happy birthday.
Yes, yeah, I had forgotten about that too. And I did write down in my notes, I wonder which mom called her, because either her adoptive mother or her birth mom. But yeah, I had completely forgotten that was a thing.
Yeah,
it's been so long. I need a rewatch is what I really need to do.
We need more episodes of Doctor Who to come out more frequently.
I know.
That's what we need.
Yeah. I know it takes just as long to make these 8 episodes as it does the 12 or however many we used to have, but I'm like, I just wish we had more stories with them.
Yeah.
Because I'm so looking forward to the next season, but I'm caught between I want it out as soon as possible, and also I need it to come out when there's not other Marvel or Star Wars shows coming out, so that I can enjoy Doctor Who on its own. Kind of thing.
Yeah, and if the next companion wasn't already cast and shot and canned, I think they're already done filming.
Yeah.
But
they wrapped filming back in May, I think.
Yeah, if that wasn't the case, I would have probably petitioned to have the actress who played Anita join the crew.
Yes.
And have her bring a chair onto the TARDIS.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Oh, that would have been so sweet if
yes.
When he invites her, she's like, you have no chairs, and then brings their chairs from the room in there.
Yep. Because, I mean, also not for nothing, you know, I mean, there's all sorts of very talented actresses who've played companions over the years, but also, like, it would be kind of nice to have an older companion in the TARDIS full-time, too. You know?
That's not an old man.
No, I'm saying Anita. I mean, she's not, like, but she's older than, like, the kind of the median age of the companions have been recently.
Yeah, well, I'm saying that an older companion that's not an old man. Like, we had Wilf,
Graham.
And then we had Graham. Yeah, we've had old men before, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, because, you know, she's sweet. I hope, again, like I was saying, Stephen Moffat's really good at writing stuff for Big Finish to pick up later down the line. I want a whole series about the Time Hotel. I think it would be amazing, especially because I want to know what was up with that Hobbit door. Like, yes. I'm not even a big, huge Lord of the Rings fan, but I'm like, I clocked that Hobbit door right away.
When you see a Hobbit door, you know a Hobbit door.
Yeah. I'm like, what an interesting choice, but okay.
You know who would be great for the Time Hotel?
Did the name go out of your head immediately?
No, I'm just laughing at it because I'm already lost in, like, the antics of Nardole running the Time Hotel.
Yes. I love that.
Nardole should be running the Time Hotel. There's a management opening. I heard there's a management opening.
He can run the restaurant because he's got experience from Beryllium.
Well, that's why he can run everything. But yes, he can run the restaurant too. Even if he just ran the restaurant, maybe Anita's the manager.
Yep.
And Nardole runs the restaurant.
There you go. The kitchen with 30 minutes in the future, which I wrote down in my notes. I'm like, Gallifrey 1 needs that. Because, man, the wait for food sometimes is a little.
And speaking about food, the Doctor using the psychic paper to predict what people want in the restaurant.
That was cute. I love that. I'm on a diet. That's what it says.
But before we get too far off track, I do want us to talk about and focus a little bit on a couple things. One, the briefcase itself throughout the episode, and then the amazing interaction, which they actually did very well as far as, like, split screen CGI, however they did it, the amazing interaction of shooty on shooty.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That entire scene, like, I wrote down, like, his whole quote about, you know, do you know how lonely you are? And I was just like, it was such a good, like, it's so amazingly acted, because I feel like sometimes when actors act against, like, themselves, it can be a little silly, but he did such a great job. And I loved how, like, you got multiple angles of that too, which I feel like doesn't always happen because it's such a, probably, I would imagine, technical thing that you have to do because you got to match the lighting and everything. One thing I did write down in my notes too, that where he's, like, you know, raging against himself, his future self, it really reminded me a lot. Stephen Moffat, so they do the novelizations of the different Doctor Who episodes, and one of the first ones they did of the more recent episodes was Stephen Moffat wrote a novelization of The Day of the Doctor, and there's a sequence that I don't know if maybe it was meant to be in the episode or he cut it for time, or he added this later, where, like, 11 and 10 are, like, really fighting, and I think 10 winds up punching 11 at one point, but it reminds me a lot of that scene where they fought even more than you see in the TV episode, and I thought that must have been, I feel like that must be tricky but fun to shoot, where you get to, like, yell at yourself. I don't know.
Yeah, but yeah, just the whole interaction, the range of emotion that he had, not just like him yelling at himself, but just the way he was standing there and sternly looking at himself, letting him know, like, you have to stay. Like, and then the whole thing about take the long way around. I'm like, he said the line, he said the thing. Yes. And then just the whole thing about the chairs, like, it was a really good way for the Doctor to be very self-aware of himself in the moment. And then, like, yeah, obviously that led into the great relationship between himself and Anita. But it was it was, I don't know, that was such a great interaction, even though it was just him playing against himself. It was such a great interaction between himself.
Yes. Oh, for sure. I mean, I think I did write down somewhere in my notes too. I'm like, yeah, I don't think that therapy out of order thing's going too hot for you, bud. But, it was, because he was so upset when Ruby left. And of course, she had to, because she's got to figure out her life. But, the time and time again, the show has been like, what, the Doctor does not do well on his own. And especially like when you combine that with the opening of it, when he's got his mugs and his newspaper, and Trev is like, oh, why do you have 2 mugs? And he's like, habit. And he's just kind of sad about it, and it's like, oh. And then he kind of immediately makes Trev his companion, and then Trev almost immediately dies, as people are wont to around the Doctor, unfortunately. But yeah, that was a really great scene that I really, really liked. It's not what I expected, because they had put out a couple promotional stills, and one of them was of Shooty and Shooty, and that's not what I quite expected from that scene, and so it was really cool.
Yeah, and using Trev as a bridge to the briefcase, the briefcase, how it was moving from person to person to person, and it wasn't the same at all. But for whatever reason, I was getting vibes of the return of Dr. Mysterio, with the brains that were little brain aliens that were just going into different people. And it was like, I don't know why I had that vibe to it. I don't know if it was the music, but something about when the briefcase was shifting the people, I started feeling like this is familiar. Like I felt like when Doctor Who feels like Doctor Who, it just felt like that episode to me, and it had no relation to it, but I just got that vibe, and I don't know why.
Yeah. Well, it was it's been a hot minute since I've watched that one. I don't know why I haven't watched that episode over in particular. I think just because it makes me sad after Husbands of River Song.
It's a silly episode too.
It's a silly episode, but it's also about grief in a way.
Boyd swallows a D20 and gets superpowers.
Yeah, but it's kind of, same thing where it's just kind of, it's finding people higher and higher up on the chain, though I don't think we ever got resolution on what happened in The Return of Dr. Mysterio with the unit person getting their brain taken over. I don't
remember. I honestly don't remember. It's been a hot minute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think we ever did. Maybe they'll touch on it because I think Unit's supposed to be in the spinoff that's coming not next year, but the following year. So we'll see, I guess. But I'm not expecting it either.
Was it called something like that?
Was the war between the Earth, or the war between the land and the sea, or something to that effect.
Okay.
Some very long title that I'm going to wind up abbreviating every single time.
I'm assuming it's Sea Devils then or something, yeah. But one thing go ahead.
Yeah, one of the other things that I didn't expect, but I thought was done incredibly well, they never said COVID in the episode, but that was so clearly...
It was definitely COVID.
What Joy was talking about. And I'm like, it was completely unexpected. And I do think that's going to hit a lot of people. I am very fortunate that I didn't lose anybody close to me to COVID. But just knowing that that's so many people's stories where they were not able to be with their loved one when they passed away because of these rules, which were, there for people's protection, but also then to turn around and see what all these people who were supposedly making the rules were doing in the meantime. Like, that was like an excellent performance from Nicola Coughlan as Joy in that scene where the Doctor's just kind of riling her up to get her to break the connection with the briefcase, and very well written too. And again, Stephen Moffat does it best when he's doing something heartbreaking and also, hitting back at just nonsense. Yeah, I didn't expect that, but I feel like it was really well done.
Yeah. And in that point, watching it the second time, when he got her upset and she lunges at him, watching it the second time, you don't see it, but you hear the cuff unshackle, and drop on the ground as she's lunging for the Doctor.
Yeah.
But I didn't notice that until the second time that there's an audio cue that it dropped off.
Yeah. Yeah, like I think there's like you hear like the click of the handcuff coming undone, and then you hear her drop it in order to like grab by the bylaws and be like, "Listen, you jerk."
Yeah, but one thing I didn't understand still is I understand it broke the connection. It let her go. But why did she still not die? Is what I don't understand.
I think because I feel like probably there was still some psychic connection to the people who had just handed it off, would be my guess. And because kind of like how she wasn't getting that message until she got close to the case again, it was just completely severed. And so hopefully, or maybe maybe that's the other thing too, where she was gonna die anyway, and so she went off with the star. I don't know.
I don't know, because like when it attached, and I'm going to talk about the moving from person to person, because there was one thing that confused me on that as well. But yeah, when it attached to each new person, each previous person regained their full consciousness and just evaporated, and then they died. So that's why I was confused as far as what stopped her. I understand what dropped the suitcase, but what prevented her from dying now that it let her go? That's what I wasn't certain of. Because they didn't say like, oh, you're free, but there's still a bond between you, and that's what's keeping you alive for the moment. There was nothing that mentioned why she was still alive. It was just mother's still, like, even in death, they're still looking after us or something like that. And that wasn't enough for my over analytical mind.
Yeah, like I feel like there's like some mechanics that definitely had been like worked out but didn't necessarily make it to explanations in the episode, which again, sometimes it's nice to have that. Sometimes I feel like they get a little overly, whatever, hand-holdy, which can be a problem with Stephen Moffat's episodes. I have found where he's not super hand-holdy about stuff, and then people get annoyed because they don't think it all the way through. Like, again, I have been on Tumblr since 2012. I have seen all of the Stephen Moffat discourse. Trust me. Because again, he has done my favorite era of the show. So,
yeah, I mean, all writers of Doctor Who, I don't care who they are, all writers of Doctor Who have had plot holes or things that were left unexplained, which isn't necessarily a plot hole, it's just a loose end. Every writer in Doctor Who has had something, because you're dealing with time and space, and you can't always wrap everything up neatly. And I do believe that there is a certain level of leaving things open intentionally, because one, it's fun. Two, why not? Like, if it's not important to you, why close it up? And three, you could always circle back to it. You or someone else could always circle back to it later. But it's little things like that where it's like, for me, all I needed was one line to say like, oh, that's why this happened. And that's enough for me. If it's something that's contained in the episode that won't be like bridged back to later.
Yeah. Yeah, because I did read, I forget where I saw this, but I guess there was a cut line in Devil's Cord where they explained why there was a musical number at the end, where there was some line that the Doctor had about how music was rushing back into history, and there was going to need to be an outlet for that, and that's why you get the musical number at the end, but they cut that. And I'm like, that would have been nice to leave in. I mean, I'm a musical fan, trust me. I do not need an explanation for characters breaking into song and dance, because it delights me. It delights me. I was the number of, I'm just like, I get not everybody likes musicals, but like, if you don't like musicals, like they're so joyful. I get not everybody likes them. My dad doesn't like them, whatever, it's fine. But I'm like, it's just let some joy into your heart and deal with it for one episode. It wasn't even that much music in the episode. Anyway. But yeah, like little lines, I feel like sometimes, especially I feel like when there's people, it's the same people involved through the whole entire episode. Maybe they remember lines, and so they think in their head, oh no, this has been explained, but then they forget that they cut that line until, it gets broadcast or whatever. So
Maybe. This one was a little more, not a line thing. It was more either how it was written and or shot, but I think it was more so how it was written. I might need to watch it again because one thing I was questioning, but I didn't quite pay attention to, as far as, because it's a very specific, is it looked like whenever the suitcase wanted to upgrade, it just unattached and reached for the other person. And the thing I'm not certain of is, did the other person make contact with the suitcase first or not? Because I think there were, I want to say, at least with the Silurian, that it was implied that it just attacked the other person instead of the other person taking the briefcase, which didn't make sense to me because once it analyzed the doctor, why was it waiting? Why did it take the briefcase, and it never, maybe it was out of range because he was standing away, but then when he grabbed the briefcase from Joy and moved it to the bed, it didn't automatically detach and latch onto him. It never at one point tried to transfer onto the doctor or make attempts to move on to the doctor other than asking his permission, not asking his permission, but trying to make him touch the case himself voluntarily. And that's where I might need to watch it again. Because I felt like it was more attacking people versus them touching the case first in a couple situations.
Yeah, like it kind of felt like how it was supposed to work is like they had to like voluntarily take the case in some way, even if they got tricked into it, because that's kind of how it worked with the first guy who in the credits is called Mr. Single, which I thought was funny because that's what the doctor calls him. And I'm like, okay, apparently that's his character name. He had to say to the barman, he's like, can you put my face behind the bar? And the barman had to be like, yeah, sure. And then touch it. And then it attached to him. I just wonder if it's more, I think I would need to rewatch it too, because I wonder if it's just that like those scenes cut away before you get to that part.
Yeah, because that one specifically, that one specifically, he went to take the case. Yeah. But with Trev, I want to say he just put his hand out and it switched. Yeah. I want to say. I'm not certain. But I don't know. I can't for certain say that Trev touched the case first.
Right.
And the Silurian, it was off screen, but from what I remember, it was implied that it just transferred and he didn't touch the case first.
Yeah.
That was my thought. So that's why, based on those, if I am correct, I don't know why it didn't just move on to the doctor when it was in close proximity.
But there's probably some, like, to borrow a phrase, there's probably some timey-wimey reason where, like, the doctor's brain is, like, more, like, less susceptible to control, and so it needed more permission. I don't know. There's probably something in there about that. I wouldn't be shocked. I will say the whole scene in Joy's hotel room at first, I definitely do think that, honey, the doctor's in the room, it's mansplain central. I might need to make that one of my Gallifrey 1 references this year. Because that was a delightful line.
Their banter was pretty good right there.
I loved that. I felt bad for Joy because she's like, sorry, am I in the way in my own room? I'm like, ooh, I have had days where I felt like that too. I see. One other thing I did want to talk about before we wrap up. So I got to read this whole thing. So in a TV Choice magazine interview that Stephen Moffat did around the time Boom came out, he said that while he had not read the finale for the past season, that, quote, bizarrely enough, I have read the finale of the following seasons for reasons that will become apparent, he said cryptically, end quote. What do you think that reason might be? Especially because he has also said that he has not written anything else for Doctor Who, for the next season of Doctor Who, and does not know if he will write more Doctor Who in the future. Because I will say, initially when I saw, again, the promo pic where you had the two doctors, I thought that was going to be the connecting thing, but I feel like that wrapped up pretty neatly within the episode without much room for the doctor that's stuck on Earth for a year to really be doing anything interesting.
When is the 60th? I'm trying to remember. Is it next year?
What?
60th anniversary.
That was like last year.
Oh wait, maybe I'm okay. I'm living life out of order again.
It's Doctor Who. It's thematically.
Yeah. Well, my thought was if Stephen Moffat is saying something like he is going to write something and it will be apparent. Don't anyone, for you, myself, and the one other person that listens to us, which is Monica, our editor, if anyone else listens to us, we appreciate you. Yes. But
you should leave us a review or something.
Please. Is my thought is he going to write another multi-doctor special?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's the only thing. If it's him and it will be apparent that it's him, that's what points it. That's what it seems like to me.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can't see any other reason why it would specifically need to be him without the involvement of him in everything else, and he doesn't know about anything else, unless it was something that he can just do, like the 50th anniversary didn't need like any other seasons to make. Yeah, you need to know kind of like briefly what happened, but it was all its own story, self-contained. You just needed the doctors. So maybe we have at least 15 and the Valyard back or something. I mean, the 14th Doctor. Who knows? But yeah, I have two other things I want to jump into before we wrap up also.
Yeah.
One of the things, go ahead.
I'm just interested to see what the plot point in the next season finale might be that's going to have something to do with this episode will be. Because I got no idea. I'm like, because at first I was like, oh, maybe Joy is going to come back and she'll be like the companion for season 3 or something. And I'm like, manifestly not. Because she's kind of dead / a star now. But
it
yeah, I
could
really
be Vanguard at a Time Hotel too.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah, maybe Anita will come back. Who knows? Or something to do with like those toy TARDISes, because his kind of like, there's a lot of these online for some reason, was an interesting line. I mean, I did think like, oh, maybe Donna's daughter Rose maybe made one of them and he bought one of those online, but I thought that was an interesting line as well. But I'll be interested to see.
I just figured it was in relation to the Doctor Who fandom in general.
Yeah.
And that the Doctor is known to be around in his own universe. Like they know a lot of people know he exists.
Like Linda.
So maybe people are making memorabilia like, get this TARDIS. Yay.
Yeah. I don't know. But whatever it winds up being, I'm very interested to see what's being cooked up there. And I hope that Stephen Moffat does write more Doctor Who in the future, because his episodes are some of my favorites.
Yes, I might. And just to say this to the man who I do love, I nitpick a lot because that is my nature, but I enjoy everything that he's done. It's not out of hate. It's not out of like, oh, you did this, I would do it better. It's just that's the way my brain works. But I enjoy every time he writes for the show.
Yes. If you're going to Gallifrey 1, I mean, I know you're going to Gallifrey 1, but if anybody's going to Gallifrey 1 in February, Stephen Moffat is going to be a guest again, which I am super excited for, because he was such a delight the last time he came, which was immediately after he was done running the show. And it was beautiful to see him get to answer questions when he was no longer having to worry about his contract with the BBC.
Yes, and I really hope I get to buy him a drink again. That was one of the highlights of my lifetime.
Yes, for sure.
So one of the things I wanted to mention was the creative use of foul language in the show. It's like, excuse my French, but what the French? I laughed, and then later when he's like, oh, French. I can do they could pepper that into any other episode. That was wonderful. I enjoyed that.
Just keep it going.
Did you catch the Mavity?
I did.
Okay, that's the other thing I wanted to bring up was when he was talking, if anyone didn't notice, when he was talking to the consciousness of Trev on the sonic screwdriver, he's like, hey, do you have can you tell me where you are, temperature, et cetera, mavitational pull. I was like, he said the thing. And I still don't know if that's going to be something significantly relevant or if it's just a fun thing they're doing.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know. People seem a little split on if they like the Mavity thing or not, but I think it's just a kind of funny little harmless thing that they keep peppering in, and it might be a bad wolf thing.
It might be a bad wolf thing where it's just in until until they realize that time changed with that point and certain things were put into place or moved that cascaded through time. And that was the only clue that we saw. Or not the only clue, because, Moffat's not right. Actually, no, it wasn't Moffat. I'm sorry. It is Russell T. Davies, who did the Ninth Doctor, Series 9 ended up being my favorite overall, but previously it was Series 4.
Yes.
And even, I'm wondering if we're going to get a Series 4 where we ended up having all these little things that were throwaway lines and other things with a bad wolf that was continuous, and then everything. I mean, those are different seasons, but like everything comes together later on.
You've got like the missing planets in season 4 is kind of that season's through line where every couple episodes they talk about a planet that's gone missing from space and time for whatever reason, like the adipose moon or the thing that the moon that the lady in Midnight is looking for in her paper and Pyrabilia and stuff. So there's that. Season 4 might be one of my favorites. This is one of my favorites too. I watched that one a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, there's the Mavity line again. So it's definitely intentional. It's not going away, and I don't know if it's an overall plot point or if they're just having fun because it's a little inside joke that they're doing.
I feel like it could go either way, especially because like Russell T. Davies knows that we're all going to be looking for stuff like that. Kind of like we got a little bit trolled with the Ruby Sunday stuff, I want to say, in a good way. I think it worked out well. I still have somewhat mixed feelings, but the fact that he justified it by saying, this is my response to Rey's parents in Star Wars thing, like, again, applaud that. So yeah, I feel like it could go either way. It could be a silly little thing or it could wind up being a big thing. It's hard to tell with him right now, I feel like.
Now, one last thing I do want to mention, because I had notes and we covered everything except for this one thing. We're going back to the beginning of the episode because we live out of order. Yes. I really actually enjoyed the part right after, like when Trev said, well, then why do you have 2 cups? And he's like, oh, here you go. Goes back into the TARDIS. And then all of a sudden he's like, he puts a cup down and throws his coat on. He's like, I put my coat on. What did I see? Oh, I grabbed my Sonic now. Oh, what did I see? Like that was such a really cool way of the Doctor just gearing himself up because he noticed something but hasn't realized it. But it was like he was on autopilot and it was just the music was good. The way Ncuti performed that was good. The lines were good. And then when he like goes out, it's like, oh, what did I see? It was just, I don't know. Something about that was like really like amped me up and got me like the little giddy Doctor Who fan. Like, what did he see? What did he see?
Yeah. It reminded me a bit of, again, the 11th hour where the Doctor's like, I saw something weird. What did I see? And then you kind of get that little like weird clicky
the Sherlock thing,
Sherlock thing, yeah.
That was back when they were doing Sherlock.
Yeah, essentially.
It was similar to that.
Yeah, and it reminded me of that, and I was like, oh, like, I'm sure some people will be like, oh, it's because he doesn't have any, new ideas. I'm like, but if you're a writer, you're gonna have things that come up all the time but as long as you do it different and it's still fun, who cares? I really don't,
Also, you if anyone who complains about this, I don't think anyone will. I honestly don't think anyone will. But if anyone did,
Tumblr might.
You're going to have the complaints coming from either side. Either the Doctor's too different. They used to do this. They used to be like this. Or like we have this. The Doctor is the same person even though they change throughout their life, they are still at the core the same person. So yes, they're going to react the same way in certain situations. So get over it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Just overall, I really loved the episode. I thought it was really sweet. I really hope it's not that long of a wait for season 2. Monica might have to cut that out. Possibly. We probably shouldn't talk about season 2 stuff, because who knows if they're going to put a trailer on it when it actually goes out on TV. But so let me try that again. I am really looking forward to the next season. I can't wait to see what happens. Very excited.
I'm excited. I just want more episodes to come out so we can watch them and be amped and talk about them and have more costumes to look into. And I kind of honestly just want to get a bum. I don't even know what you call it. I'm just say a bum Doctor cosplay where he had the blue polo and the vest and was just bumming on Earth. He only had the one shirt. I actually had his Doctor shirt, but other than that, he only had the one blue shirt that he wore the entire time.
Must have been his uniform or something. I don't know.
Maybe it was a work shirt. I didn't even think about that.
I'm guessing. But it needed like a little hotel logo or something. I don't know. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And then also looking forward to season 2 coming out, so that hopefully we get news on if Disney's continuing the partnership or not. I know there's a lot of people who are like, oh, it's not going to happen. I'm like, I don't see any reason why they wouldn't, unless the show's doing abysmally, which it's not. I mean, Disney doesn't put out streamer numbers, generally speaking, but I can't imagine that it's doing bad for them, because it's Doctor Who. It's a 60-year-old show that's got a huge fan base. So I'll be interested to see. Hopefully that all works out well. Hopefully Disney maybe gets in on the merch game, because Doctor Who needs more merch, because it's sad these days, especially in the States. I want a Gallifrey Spirit jersey, and I want Doctor Who Mickey ears. The Doctor Who Mickey ears I could make myself, but we'll see. Hopefully it goes well. I can't imagine that it wouldn't. I can't imagine they would be pulling atrocious numbers where they would want to back out or anything. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to it, whatever happens. I'm sure that, because they've always said, even if Disney does decide to not go forward with it, they would still make the show. It would just have less of a budget. Just then they would have to find a new home for it in the States, because I don't think it wouldn't go well if they lost their international audience. I know it's very much a UK institution. It's a UK show, but it does just have such a huge overseas fan base that it would be not good if we lost a legitimate way to watch the show.
It would just be access to the show, which fans would have access to the show. It would just be back on like BritBox or something like that. I'm not worried about that. And if it goes back to lower budget, it goes back to lower budget. I mean, well, we survived through pizza before. I think we can. Yes. Well, I think we'll be just fine.
Exactly. And I mean, some of the best episodes have been written because of budget constraints. Like Midnight is one of those, and it's a phenomenal episode. So, I'm not too worried about. I would imagine it'll continue. I can't see any reason why it wouldn't. And hopefully I'm not wrong. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. Give us more shows.
Yes, I know. More episodes. Yeah, because also, like, I would have to look up to see if the next year's Christmas special was included in the filming block for season 2 or not. I would imagine that it was. Or else it would be weird to not have a Christmas episode next year, depending on how things go. I'd have to look that up. I'm not sure how you would find that out, though.
I have a random Doctor Who fact, which is actually a cosplay Doctor Who fact too, that we could end the episode with, unless you have something already.
I don't. I kind of gave up on the concept of it because it worked out super well.
So my Doctor Who fact is that the shirts and shooty wears for so far most of his run, not all of the shirts, but the majority of his shirts, at least 3 of them. There's a red shirt, the main striped shirt, and the striped shirt he wore the kind of orange cream, something like that. The one he wore when he had his Doctor outfit, they are all by Madcap England. And I think they're still available online. But if they're not, they you know what to look for. If you're interested in that, those shirts are made by Madcap England, madcapengland.com. That's your random fact and cosplay tip.
Cool. Yes. All right. Do you want me to just read the ending then, I guess? Okay. All right. Well, I can't wait to hear what everybody thinks of the Christmas special, but that's all for this episode of Temple of Geeks Who Review. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. You can also follow us on social media for more Doctor Who content. We are on TikTok and Instagram and Threads and Blue Sky as @Temple of Geek. And you can also visit templeofgeek.com for Doctor Who cosplay guides, episode reviews, and more. Thanks so much for listening. Bye.
See you guys. Thank you. We love you.